agriculture and any of the potential risks and how to mitigate them. And we also, recently, our new president of MSU came to campus, Kevin Guskowitz. He started a week and a half ago, and we've all been very pleased to have the chance to meet him. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Che?
So we're just kind of getting started with the season. Some nursery plants have been started. We're also in the process of meeting with new and old restaurants to shore up our restaurant orders for the season. Otherwise, I had no commissioner travel.
Great. Thank you all. Is there a motion to approve commissioner travel?
Motion.
Second.
Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the motion carries. Our next order of business is a retirement resolution for John Hill. I understand John won't be present today, but we do want to recognize him and thank him for his work as a dedicated supervisor in the Pesticide and Plant Pest Management Division. He worked on numerous important topics for the department, including the gypsy moth and emerald ash borer, all in work to protect Michigan's forests and ag crops. And so on behalf of the commission, I want to thank John for his 34 years of service. So is there a motion to approve the retirement resolution?
I'll motion to approve.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Next, Director, look forward to your report.
Well, thank you. As you might tell, I don't have much of a voice today, so it's going to be an abbreviated director's report. We continue to work through realignment work with our new bureau structure here at the department, doing a lot of important hiring. Mike Alexander is coming on board next week, I believe, as new division director within Bureau of Environmental Sustainability. Megan DeLue is taking the position as section manager of soil, water, and climate. So important priority areas for us here in the department. So great to see that continued staffing ongoing in that area and plenty of others across the department. Continue to work through budget cycles here. We've recently made presentations to both Senate and House Ag Approps around our recommended budget for this year. So continue a lot of meeting with legislators, stakeholders to flesh out the specifics of what those budget proposals look like for the department. Excuse me. I'll also mention, I don't believe Director Poppy Hernandez is going to be able to join us as the next item. So I'll take the opportunity to mention a few details on the USDA's equity work. Poppy's a member of USDA's Equity Commission, which recently made recommendations to the Secretary, a culmination of months, years of work across the country, really working on how do we address equity issues across agriculture, but specifically within USDA. So we're privileged in Michigan to have good representation on that committee. USDA is going to kick off their first regional equity meeting in Michigan here on March 26th. So coming right up, going to be a couple days of really good meetings down in the Dearborn area, Greater Detroit, of talking about what that work means implementation-wise across the state, across the country. So it's nice to be kind of in a pole position of Michigan of highlighting a lot of that work. So USDA's meeting, and so make sure you watch for USDA notices of what those specifics come out in the next few weeks here. But it's great to be having an opportunity to be a part of that from within the department here. So with that, I'll keep us moving. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Any questions for the director? Okay. As the director mentioned, Poppy Hernandez isn't able to make it today, so we'll move to our next order of business and invite Chad Rogers and Mike Wozniak up. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning. Chad Rogers, Acting Director for Conservation and Stewardship Division. You all know Mike. We're here today to talk about the Jonathan and Fanny Yoder facility siting application and the subsequent appeal, provide you a little information to help you make your decision. And I'll just touch on background today. As you all know, the Michigan Right to Farm Act empowered the Commission to create the generally accepted agricultural and management practices. And it specifically directed the commission to create the GAMP for site selection and odor control for new and expanding livestock facilities, which is what we're dealing with today. And then I'll just direct you to policy number 10, bullets 3 and 4. So bullet 3 directs the commission to consider the panel of recognized experts' professional reports, oral and written comments from the appellants, and other public comments. So you should have the report from the panel, and you should have the appellant's materials to review. And then bullet 4 outlines the options for the commission regarding a recommendation to the director today. So you can approve MDARD's site suitability determination, you can reverse our site suitability determination, or you can send the case back to the panel of recognized experts or back to MDARD staff for more analysis with a timeline. And I'm sure you'll hear multiple times this morning, I just wanted to repeat that conformance with the site selection GAMPs is voluntary. The Yoders don't have to go through this process prior to construction. And MDARD, we have no authority to order them to stop construction or operation. So our role here is to determine conformance with the GAMP. So Mike will give you all the details about the process and answer any questions about the GAMP.
Good morning, Commissioners. Morning. As you guys may remember, this all begins really back in November of 2022 when you guys had approved the adoption of the 2023 site selection GAMPs. These GAMPs are written and led by an advisory committee of experts that fulfill the purpose and provide uniform statewide standards and acceptable management practices based on sound science, as identified in the Act. These practices serve producers in the various sectors across the industry to compare or improve their own managerial routines and mitigate nuisance concerns. Conformance to the site selection GAMPs is voluntary, meaning that they are not required to go through the site selection process before they start construction. MDARD carries no authority or ability to seize, prevent, stop a producer from construction. On September 19th, this last year, 2023, the Right to Farm program received a livestock production facility siting application from Jonathan and Fanny Yoder. Thus, this application is requesting conformance to the 2023 GAMPs. Upon the receipt of this request, MDARD initiated this review. This process, again, consists of two staff conducting simultaneous independent reviews. When these reviews are completed, the staff meet to compare and contrast notes, summarize their findings, and request clarification or additional information as necessary from the applicant. This occurred twice during the review process with this application. And upon completion of additional clarification, staff independently reached the same conclusion concerning conformance with the siting GAMPs. During this review, my staff went out and conducted an on-site inspection in response to the application and any additional information that was received. This staff then agreed that the applicant sufficiently demonstrated conformance that they presented to a conformance review committee. This conformance review committee includes the program manager, myself, the remaining resource analysts, our siting analysts, and Conservation Stewardship Division's engineering specialists, and upon request, a member of the Site Selection Advisory Committee. In order to issue site suitability, the review committee must unanimously agree that the application has demonstrated that the proposed facility is in conformance with the site selection GAMPs. This committee met, and then eventually site suitability was issued on January 2nd of this year, which was provided through an official letter to the applicant, the county, and the township where the proposed project resides, and then additionally posted on Right to Farm's website for public awareness. This is as required in the Act. An appeal was then received on January 31st through the Commission's email, and then approved by the Director on February 9th. Upon the approval of this appeal, MDARD has subsequently then asked the chair of the Site Selection GAMPs Committee to convene a panel of recognized professionals to review MDARD's site suitability determination in accordance with the Commission's policy number 10, as Chad referenced here. The site selection chair, Jerry May, nominated Megan Tinsley, Water Policy Director from Michigan Environmental Council, Sarah Franzak, Michigan State University Extension Environmental Management Educator, and Ryan Coffey Hogue, Michigan State Land Use Planning Community and Economic Development Educator, to serve as a panel of recognized professionals in addition to Jerry. This panel met twice throughout February and reviewed the application, MDARD site suitability determination, and considered the information provided by the appellant against the language of the site selection GAMPs. After extensive review, as the report that has been provided with you, their conclusion was to send it back to MDARD for additional review as a new livestock production facility. I'd be happy to entertain any questions that you guys have regarding the site selection GAMPs, MDARD's process, and Ryan will be up with you later to answer any questions you have regarding the panel's decision.
Great. Mike, before we get into questions, will you just review again our role as the commission? So we have a few options, right? As we do this, we can approve MDARD site selection, we can reject it, we can send it back for additional work, correct?
Absolutely, yes. The commission's role here is to provide recommendation to the director. The commission has three options as identified in the policy manual: either to uphold the site selection determination, deny the site selection and appeal it, or to send it back to either the panel for additional consideration or back to MDARD for additional consideration, outlining key points that feel that it would be done, additionally with a timeline.
Great.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, do you have questions?
I think part of the question was, is it a new or expanding livestock facility? I just heard you at the end say that we're going to look at it as a new livestock facility.
The site suitability determination was upheld as an expanding livestock facility. When my staff was out on site, as also identified in the application, that there is currently livestock there at the location within the application. As I said, the application identified that, and when we were on site, we confirmed that there is livestock there within a barn. And so under the definition there of expanding livestock facility, it goes on, livestock facility goes on and talks about any number of animal units. In order to be a new livestock facility, a new livestock production facility, as the appeal is requesting, it has to be two things: expanding the animal unit capacity by 100% or greater, and which it does that, but it also has to result in a holding capacity that exceeds 749 animal units. This application doesn't do that. Because of that definition, our team has decided that this would be an expanding livestock facility.
Mike, I know there were some questions around being contiguous. Can you talk a little bit about that topic?
Absolutely. So under other definitions there in the site selection GAMP, it discusses any livestock production facility within 1,000 feet as another livestock production facility, and under common ownership constitutes a single livestock production facility. The existing barn and the proposed new chicken barn is on the same parcel of the same ownership and within 1,000 feet of each other. Because of these definitions and because of the way how we've always historically handled it, we consider that contiguous, within the same ownership, on the same parcel.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Other questions?
Are there any differences if it were a new facility versus an existing add-on facility?
Well, the initial setbacks required is greater. If it's a new facility, they would be requested to have a setback as great as 400 feet. Granted, they can request a reduction from that down, but that would have to come from the applicant. This application identified as an expanding facility and did not request any sort of reductions. So MDARD continued its review under the assumptions that the application had provided. They could have requested it as a new production facility, and then we would have evaluated it as such. But in here, as a expanding, they had livestock on site that meets the definitions as understood in the GAMPs, so we continued our review as such.
I had a question about the non-farm residents versus the farmers claiming that they would be considered farm residents based on agricultural activity happening, such as corn and soy being grown, as well as other livestock being kept. Does that negate the appeal? Does that make sense?
I don't follow your question.
So in point 5 that the Yoders provided, they cite a number of neighbors who either rent out land or use land for growing crops, or also keep cattle as well as chickens and I'm assuming like a feeder or rat barn. So would these residents who are in the appeal, are they considered non-farm residents, or?
Yes. We don't look at, a non-farm residence isn't whether or not they're farming. It's whether or not they're associated with the operation. So you could have somebody across the street that's also farming, but they're not associated with the operation in question. So we would consider that non-farm resident because it's not associated with that operation. Now, if let's say a brother was living across the street who also worked in the barns, and they identified that in the application, because there's no way of us knowing without them saying, yes, these are farm employees, then we would potentially associate that with it and consider that a farm residence. It really all comes down to whether or not it is associated with the operation in question, not whether or not they practice farming.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Also, in the site selection, a big part of the appeal was the diesel generator, and I'm assuming, did the panel assess the noise levels that a diesel generator would produce?
I'd have to defer to Ryan as far as the panel's discussion. I was not involved, but I can tell you that while that is unfortunate, and I can understand empathy, of that situation, the site selection GAMPS does not provide any language describing the mitigation of practices of generating electricity from a generator. So part of our review, because our job again is only to determine conformance to the GAMPS. We don't look at anything outside of what the GAMPS addresses.
Okay.
Is that something possibly in the future? Absolutely. But as of right now, for this application, that language doesn't exist, so that wasn't considered.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mike or Chad? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners.
Great, so next we'll move on to public comment on agenda items. So in accordance with the public appearance guidelines in the Commission Policy Manual, individuals wishing to address the Commission must complete a public appearance card and will be allowed up to 3 minutes for their presentation. This was accomplished through pre-registration for this meeting pursuant to the meeting notice. Those not pre-registered will be allowed up to 2 minutes to present. Documents distributed as part of the meeting will be considered public documents and are subject to provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. The public comment time provides the public an opportunity to speak. The Commission will not necessarily respond to the public comment. I will call by name or the last 4 digits, Angie may help me here, of their respective telephone number, those who have pre-registered to speak. Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing each speaker and will give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning relative to your time limit. Once each has presented, I will ask if there's anyone else who wishes to speak during public comment and call upon them by the last 4 digits of their phone number. Each person should clearly state their name and who they represent and will have 2 minutes to speak. Again, Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing. We are running a little bit ahead of schedule, so we'll do the pre-registered comment and make sure we circle back at 10 for anyone who joins then. So we can start with Jim Scales.
Good morning, thank you.
Good morning.
Excuse my,
At this table.
please excuse my hearing aids. I have trouble at meetings. My name is Jim Scales. My address is 900 Monroe in Grand Rapids. I was hired initially by Greg Persing and Kimberly Prack, who own property abutting the Yoder Farm. I think they are on the screen. We were given authority in writing to represent 17 other neighboring property owners to the property. Kim is especially concerned with this. She has asthma, which has been exacerbated by long COVID, so these setbacks are particularly important to her. I'll be brief. I can see from the report that the panel of professionals took their time to carefully review the detailed appeal that we filed, and we would urge the Commission to adopt the recommendation to the Director to reevaluate this as a new facility, which would be subject to a 400-foot property line setback. Now, we based our appeal in the 2024 GAMP because that's when the determination was issued. Substantially, the definitions of expanding livestock facility and new livestock facility, which is really the key to this appeal, are the same in both camps. And in particular, the definition of expanding livestock facility and new livestock facilities are substantially the same. We would only depart somewhat from the report, and we do not think that the language is ambiguous. Both the 2023 and 2024 GAMPs define an expanding livestock facility as a contiguous addition to an existing livestock facility. According to the owner's application, they have 6 cattle that are kept on pasture primarily. They're sometimes housed in a barn, which is 500 feet away from the site of the proposed poultry facility, and which their application indicates is going to be torn down anyway. And we think furthermore that not only does the recommendation of the panel follow the language of the GAMP, but it's a common sense interpretation. The GAMP recognizes the difference in land use impact between an expanding facility on the surrounding land and a new facility on the surrounding land by requiring a 400-foot setback when there are for a 50,000 hen facility and only a 200-foot setback for an expanding facility. Treating this expanding facility as an expanding facility with a 50% reduction in setback based on 6 cattle to allow 50,000 hens would be contrary to the intention of the GAMP to require a larger setback for new facilities. What's especially troubling here is that the Yoder's property extends about 1,100 feet north to south. They have plenty of room on the property to meet the setback for a new facility. Now, we recognize that the Right to Farm Act to promote agriculture provides protection against nuisance suits and local ordinances. We understand that. But it does place an obligation on the producers to follow the GAMPs and to respect the site selection and certification process. Thank you, and we would urge you to adopt the panel's recommendation and have this reviewed as a new facility. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions? Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have a pre-registered comment from Benita Carter. Okay, we can circle back then. Is there anyone else wishing to make a public comment at this time? Okay, Angie, we'll circle back at 10. But in the meantime, I'd like to invite Jerry May from the Site Selection GAMP Chair up. Oh, he's online.
Jerry's online. I'm here. From the committee.
Sure, come on up. Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Ryan Coffeyhold with Michigan State University. I was asked to serve here today because Jerry couldn't be here in person.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Megan Tinsley with Michigan Environmental Council.
Do you have any comments for us?
No, we're here to answer any questions you have. Megan and I served on the committee with Sarah and Jerry as well.
Okay, wonderful. Commissioners, any questions?
I mean, I guess it really does come down to the new versus expanding. Can you talk a little bit about the panel's opinion on how you came to the decision that it was expanding? I know that they also mentioned in the appeal that none of the livestock had seemed to be for sale. Is there a way that you check on? It seems like a very hard thing for a panel to check on. Now, I'm assuming you're not getting receipts for livestock or anything like that.
No, we went strictly with the MDARD inspector's report on that and took them for their word at the time. And in terms of the determining the definition of the new versus the expanding, that was really where we spent probably a day and a half of the discussion on. That was the crux of this case. And we do believe that there is a little bit of a logical loophole within 3 of the definitions, the way they overlap. They leave a gap for new production facility, and that's one of the reasons we included the additional recommendation asking you to recommend to the committee to fix that loophole or that problem in the GAMP going forward. That said, we believe that the staff for MDARD made the appropriate decision based on the information they had. It was a very difficult, they have to basically interpret what they have there and work with the language that's there. They can't add their own definitions or expand it. They did what they thought was right, and we agreed that that was a rational, logical decision that was made. But as we reviewed it, we felt that because of the problems or the ambiguity within those definitions and that conflict, that it would be more appropriate to reevaluate this as a new livestock production facility. It just made more appropriate sense based on what we believe the intent of the GAMP was when it was written at the time, and that's why we've made that request to you, or that recommendation to you, to send it back and have it re-reviewed as a new livestock production facility.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, like, just a quick summary, the facility met more than one definition. So then if you can meet more than one definition that's outlined in the document, then which one do you apply? So that's where I think, the problem is really within the GAMP itself.
Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions? Okay, thank you. So Angie, I know we've got about 25 minutes, and we know we have some people who may want to make public comment at 10. Are there any other agenda items we can move up at this point? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a brief recess and wait until 10 o'clock so we can make sure that we capture all public comment, and we'll move on from then. Thank you. Convene now that it's 10 o'clock, and we'll move back to our public comment. So Angie, is there anyone online for public comment? Sure. What number is it? 269. 929. 269 929. Do you have a public comment for the commission? 7514, I think, are the last four digits. Good morning. Do you have a public comment for the commission?
I do not. I was calling in to listen to the meeting, but apparently this is now I'm listening line.
Not to worry. We just wanted to make sure you had the opportunity to make a comment if you were interested. Is there anyone else
Thank you.
on line who would like to make a public comment? Okay. All right. So, commissioners, our next action item is a recommendation around the site suitability determination. It seems like we have kind of two issues at play. One is assessing the determination that was made, and another is any recommendations we want to make around clarifying the GAMPs. Any other comments from commissioners at this point?
We were talking a little bit about the Class A road issue, and we just feel like that needs to be addressed in the next GAMP, so I'd like to make that comment publicly.
Okay, Commissioner, so I actually am interested in making two motions. So I think the first is recognizing, as the committee said, the purpose of the GAMPs is to minimize conflict with adjacent land users. Seems like we have some opportunity here around clarifying. So I would like to make a motion to recommend MDARD immediately convene the Site Suitability Committee to review and clarify language around new and existing livestock facilities.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. And then I would like to make a second motion, given MDARD made the best determination they had with the GAMPs at the time. So make a motion to approve MDARD's site selection determination as an expanding facility.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Motion carries.
I do have a couple of comments about GAMPs.
Sure.
I would like to see GAMPs look at lighting and sound. I think as we go forward, lighting is a very big issue, and if it's dealt with in advance, it's not expensive any more than any other lighting. And sound, it seems to me it just needs to be dealt with, rather than having each township have to decide or each locality.
Are you thinking of exterior lighting? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
What I'm thinking of, these two can be nuisances.
Yeah.
Both lighting and sound can be major nuisances. And not much in our area, but as, with REA, rural electrification, years ago, one of the things they did is they came in and gave us these huge lights. And when we looked at it, we said, we don't need that huge light. I mean, it was just how nice of them, but it didn't really help us. But unfortunately, with the growth of lighting engineering, we're seeing lighting that doesn't do anything but light up the sky. It doesn't actually help us, and it's very nuisance producing for neighbors and for anything else you've got. I mean, if you've got a university with an observatory or whatever. And for me, in agriculture, we ought to be thinking forward to, we're going to have neighbors. Let's deal with, there's very good ways of dealing with lighting that you localize it, you do what you need with the lighting. And particularly since we've got this GAMPS coming up on greenhouses, I think it's really important. And then the sound thing with this, I have no idea how loud the generator is, but I do think, how about if we address it, if we possibly can, at the state level?
Wonderful. Thank you for your comments.
Mhm.
Great. I think our next order of business is to invite Jamie Smitko Summers up to talk about food and agriculture investment fund requests. Okay. I'll take a moment. There we go. Jamie, perfect timing. We're ready. Okay. We'll take another slight recess and wait for our guests. Okay. Thank you.
We're breaking in.
We're going to reconvene and invite Jamie Smitko Summers up to talk about our food and agriculture investment fund requests.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. So we are going to take them out of order of what was in your packet. We are still waiting for one of them to join. He is currently in the field and is on his way back to a computer. So we will talk about the Micah 6 community project first. So I'll give a kind of an overview, and then we have Coleman with Micah 6 Community Center that will talk more about the project and answer any questions that you may have. So this project is an adaptive reuse of the Webster Elementary School in Pontiac, which has been vacant for a number of years. The total project is a $30 million renovation that's funded through a variety of different programs through the state and philanthropic support. The portion that we are looking at today is about a $1.6 million portion of that for building renovations and equipment. That will include a food co-op, a commercial kitchen, and a small farmer's market that will create 6 jobs. So the goal with this is to have rentable commercial kitchen space for food entrepreneurs. It will also add a small food co-op, which will be Pontiac's first new grocery store in over a decade, and will give the ability for small growers in the area to have a farmer's market that's much closer to them to take their produce. It will also give farmers an opportunity to network with each other and to get training. ServSafe certification training will be offered twice a year for all of those that are interested in taking it. And they will also provide educational support to local small growers and food producers. The building will also have 280 solar panels on the roof that will hopefully in certain months virtually eliminate the electrical bill for the center. And for this, we are requesting the commission to consider a performance-based grant of $65,000 for this portion of the project. And I would like to turn it over to Coleman to talk in more detail about the project and the community center.
Hi, everyone. When you write it down, it sounds much more boring than it actually is. This project is it's a renovation of a vacant school building. It's been there empty since 2007. It sits right on M59. 25,000 cars drive by this building every day, and the renovation of this building, and it's weird listening to that because the lag time of like when we wrote the grant to what it is now, we closed on financing yesterday, and it came in at $34 million. So it is finished, and we are off. Groundbreaking is April 3rd. It could have been the 1st or the 3rd. I didn't like the optics of doing it on April Fool's Day. But yeah, so this part of the building is a number of classrooms that we're turning into a food co-op. And then the school's commercial kitchen, we're actually expanding to be double the footprint of what it was originally to accommodate food entrepreneurs, small farmers and growers. And, kind of as we started as a growing organization, we moved into the neighborhood and said, what's a thing that we could do here? And kind of actually tried to avoid growing food because it was kind of cliche for urban work, but it was just such a need. The nearest grocery store is 1.5 miles away. It's in Waterford because of racist transportation policy. Waterford's an opt-out community, so 40% of my neighbors who don't have cars are trying to walk 1.5 miles to get to a grocery store. So we started growing food, added hoop houses and a greenhouse, and then added a small farm stand that was mostly food that we were growing, and then in the winter we work with a food supplier that supplements what we're not growing in the winter, and we run a small produce store in the neighborhood. And then kind of through this we began making friends with other farmers and growers, and so supplementing the things that we couldn't grow, kind of expanding the things that we were offering, supporting small farms in our area. And this is just sort of it is a significant leap, but it is just sort of the next step forward in supporting the food ecosystem in the Pontiac area. We talk all the time that M59 is this bisecting highway for Oakland County, and so you have 16 farmers markets in Oakland County south of that and only 8 north of it. And when we are working in our neighborhood, we're talking a lot about access. And north of M59, the average distance from a farmer's market to a bus stop is 8 miles. And we'll have an indoor bus stop in this building. So it sort of opens up possibilities for more of our neighbors to be utilizing and participating in local food, accessing local food. And then we have already for years been running programs like Prescriptions for Health, Prescriptions for Healthy Oakland, WIC, Double Up Food Bucks, things like that for people to be able to use in our food co-op and at our farm market inside this building to be able to make produce and local produce more affordable.
Great. Thank you so much. Congratulations on financing. Sounds like a great project. I was going to ask you a question about Double Up Food Bucks and produce prescriptions, so you kind of jumped ahead there. How many farms are you working with?
So right now, we kind of throughout the year work with about 6. We know and have talked to and have more friends who just haven't found a way to partner with us yet. And we think that this kitchen, the wash pack space, the expanded food co-op will definitely create more opportunities to work with more farms.
Great.
Is this facility, the new one, adjacent to the old one, or what's your plans?
Yeah,
there?
so our farm stand is at 580 West Huron, and that is a 500 square foot building, and we'll be closing that and then reopening the food co-op at 640 West Huron, so it is 1 block away.
But, okay, so you'll end up with one facility?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, our hoop houses and greenhouse are on the playground of this school already, so it is directly in the back of the building, so food will travel about 200 yards.
I know this is a much needed development for Pontiac. I'm from Waterford, actually, and I don't know if you remember, actually, as a younger farmer, I saw the hoop houses in the back, and I stopped by kind of just to say hello.
Yeah,
so,
and now you're doing crazy things, like real work, so that's awesome.
So I appreciate the project, and I'm excited to see the school developed. When I first started, I thought a school was a perfect building, too, for an urban ag project, so I think it's really great.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what kinds of foods are you planning to grow?
So we're currently we're getting really good at greens. We had a weird root year, so we did really good at turnips, but not really good at beets. We did really good at leeks, but not great at onions. So and then kind of the thing that our neighbors grow. We have a farm meeting every March, and so we just had our meeting a couple days ago, and the neighborhood actually shows up and says, here's what we want to see. And that gets really exciting for our farmers and our growers and our volunteers, because they get to learn something different. It's not growing the same 4 crops every year. So, one year we got to try jicama, and somebody else wanted kohlrabi, and so we got to learn about kohlrabi. And so we kind of have a lineup of about 8 things that we grow and grow pretty well. And then there's always about 3 or 4 things that we're always trying.
Any more questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve the Food and Agriculture Investment Fund request for Micah 6 for $65,000?
So moved.
So moved. This is your popular one.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, the motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Fabulous.
That was
Thank
easy
you.
enough. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Try to make this
You
as
said that
painless
it
as
sounded boring, but it's a very exciting
It
project.
doesn't sound boring.
Yeah.
It's very fun. And thank you, Terry, for all your help as well.
Yeah.
Yes, appreciate all of Terry's work. Terry Barker is part of our economic development team, and they work very closely with all of these projects to get them ready, kind of get everything put together to be able to move them through the process and be able to have them here to present to you today.
Thank you.
So thank you. All right, I'm not sure if Trevor is on.
What's his last name?
Meacham? Let's see.
I don't see.
Well, I will talk about the project, and hopefully maybe he will join, get to a computer.
Perfect. If we need to take a little break for him to jump on, we're good at that now.
All right. He's not on yet. Do you want a break, or do you want me to
No, when do you
dive
get
in?
started?
Okay, perfect. So the next project is Hartford Farm Supply, which has a DBA of Paw Paw River Produce. They are located in Hartford, Michigan. They were originally founded in 1997 by Jason and Trevor Meacham when they purchased an existing facility that really focused on dry goods and some cold storage. And as the continued need for cold storage has grown for in controlled atmosphere storage, they are looking to expand into that area. So this project is just over $1 million CA, or controlled atmosphere expansion project, which will create 2 new jobs and will retain 35 jobs. The construction, it will essentially be construction and some equipment. So the construction is of a new 80-foot by 100-foot 3-room CA storage facility that will include a CO2 scrubbing unit. The new facility will be able to store 66,000 bushels of apples, resulting in a 33% increase in storage capacity, which is critical for this portion of the state and across the state. Last year, we did have a very large apple crop, and unfortunately, there was not enough CA storage in the state to accommodate all of those apples. So I know some of them had to be left in orchards. So certainly, with the increase in high-density plantings around the state, we are seeing greater yields, and this storage is critical for that. The other change that's kind of happening in the industry is consumers wanting year-round, high-quality fruit, and the controlled atmosphere storage certainly helps to accommodate that by being able to have apples in storage year-round, so that we can hopefully have Michigan apples instead of having to bring in apples from other states or regions for a few months out of the year. This also helps with Michigan's competitiveness, again, to provide that year-round storage. So additionally, they anticipate that having this additional cold storage will be able to increase amount that the growers are able to receive, and will also help so that they don't potentially have to lay off employees during a couple-month season from June to August, when they typically are not able to pack out fresh apples. So the goal is to be able to keep some of those employees and have them on year-round. Jennifer, it doesn't look like Trevor's on, but Jennifer is our economic development person that covers Southwest Michigan and works closely with the Meachams on this project as well. So I think, I don't know, no Trevor? So the recommendation is for a food and ag investment performance-based grant of $60,000 for Hartford Farm Supply.
Commissioners, any questions for Jamie while we wait?
Well, Jamie, 60,000 is very small compared to the cost of the project. Do you know where the other financing might be coming from?
Yeah, they have, I can take a look, but they have secured their financing through Greenstone Farm Credit Services.
Oh, okay.
So is the 60,000 earmarked for anything in particular or just in general?
That just goes towards their overall project costs.
Okay.
So it's performance-based. So with any of these, we just look to see that they have met all of their milestones, which is essentially building the facility, installing the equipment, and getting any permits, either from a food safety or local, that are required to operate that facility. And then once they've met those milestones, they are able to get and show that they have made that investment that they have indicated to us, then they receive that grant amount.
Are there any sustainability or climate smart technologies being implemented in this project?
I think one of the things they mentioned, and let me just double check, is some of the equipment is more energy efficient than previous CA storage that's kind of in operation and happening. Also, I know it will allow growers the ability to truck their product or move apples shorter distances to get to the CA storage, where maybe in the past they may have had to go further north from this region of the state. So that certainly, certainly does cut down. So they talked about, they have some calculations in here. The average truck can haul around 1,000 bushels per trip. So they typically would take that to storage facilities outside of the region, which would cost an additional about $400 per load. So again, some cost savings from kind of the gas and the transportation costs as well for that. And they also note, let's see, if there's any other, I think that's one of the biggest ones. As well as they're working to purchase all construction and building materials locally for this project.
So I think we all recognize that farming, things can pop up. So
Yes.
Commissioners, any questions for Trevor? Are you comfortable if we move forward since he's not on yet? Move forward.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with apple industry, so I guess I would have assumed that the growers would store their own apples, but are these smaller growers? Is that why they're consolidating? Or give a little background there if you can.
Yeah, so Monica may be able to help out here as well, but essentially it's very similar to like, in some cases, like going to an elevator. So controlled atmosphere, which is really required anymore by the industry to store apples at a high quality, is very expensive. So oftentimes there's central locations that growers, will take their apples to be stored before they're marketed by whichever kind of marketing firm they work with. So hopefully I got that close.
You nailed it. Yeah. Economies of scale to sharing those resources.
Yeah, okay. So do they still own the apples, or are they pooled, or how does that work?
I think it probably depends on who they're working with, where some they may sell up front, others they may hold that ownership until they have sold them.
Yeah, different arrangements.
Yeah. So very similar to grain in many ways.
So does this company buy them, or do they just store them?
I don't believe they buy them. I believe they store. Oh, and there's Trevor and Jason to save the day on that question.
Did you hear the question?
Can you hear us?
Good morning. Can you hear us all right?
You're muted.
Oh,
We,
you hear
I
us?
think we can't hear you if you're talking. I know their audio worked the other day because we always do a test run.
Good. Can you hear us now?
Yes.
All right. We do not buy the apples. The apples are owned by the growers until they're packed by Schaefer Lake and then sold by River Ridge. Grower maintains possession of the apples until they get sold. Does that help answer your question?
And the grower, so the grower owns the apples and they're the ones that sell their own apples. Is that correct?
No.
Oh.
So I don't know I'm not sure how much you guys have went into while I was gone, but a grower grows the apples, puts them in a box. They deliver them to a packing house. The packing house does a quick initial grade of the apples to see what they look like, if they're good quality, all of that. They put all that in a database, and then the apples will get sent to us to store. And the apples will get stored here until the market department says, hey, it's time for us to bring out grower X's apples. Then they'll go back to Schaefer Lake, they get packed, and then a company called River Ridge out of Sparta, Michigan is the sales agency. And they sell close to 52% of the fresh apples in Michigan. And so that's who does the sales. The grower does not do the sales.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no worries.
That makes sense. Okay.
Commissioners, any other questions? Trevor, anything else that you wanted to mention about the project?
I'm not sure what you guys have discussed before. Unfortunately, spring came early and we're trying to spray apples today. We're trying to spray them to save them in case it gets cold, but so we can't be there with you guys today, unfortunately. But this is just an opportunity for us to be able to have Michigan apples extended into the marketplace 12 months out of the year instead of, say, 6 or 7, to give our local workforce full-time employment instead of seasonal employment. And it's just something that we're sorely lacking here in Southwest Michigan.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here. So, Commissioner,
Yeah, no worries.
is there a motion to approve the Food and Agriculture Investment Fund request for Hartford Farm Supply for $60,000?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank-
Trevor
thank
and
you,
Jason. Sorry,
Commissioners.
sorry to pull you
Thank
out
you
of
very
the
much.
fields.
All right. Thank you, commissioners.
Yep, good luck.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we'll move on to our second public comment period. So in accordance with public appearance guidelines and the commission policy manual, individuals wishing to address the commission must complete a public appearance card and will be allowed up to 3 minutes for their presentation. This was accomplished through pre-registration for this meeting pursuant to the meeting notice. Those not pre-registered will be allowed up to 2 minutes to present. Documents distributed as part of the meeting will be considered public documents and are subject to provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. The public comment time provides the public an opportunity to speak. The commission will not necessarily respond to the public comment. I will call by name or the last 4 digits of their respective telephone number, those who have pre-registered to speak. Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing each speaker and will give you a 1 minute and a 30-second warning relative to your time limit. Once each has presented, I will ask if anyone else who wishes to speak during public comment and call upon them by the last 4 digits of their phone number. Each person should clearly state their name and who they represent and will have 2 minutes to speak. Again, Commission Assistant Angie Lake will be timing. Do we have any public comment? Give it a moment. Okay, I think that wraps up our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Our motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, everybody.